Hello and welcome back to Cozy News Corner. And today we're going to talk about some cozy Linux news for the week of 2021. And I didn't do a video last week because there wasn't that much to talk about in the news, sadly. And I'm working a little bit on a video that is how to use a particular software, but sadly it's not good enough, so I had to make something in order to get it to work at all, but it's gonna go into that later on in the news segment. So first up, we start with Debian, that now blocks unreproducible packages from testing. So what this means is that the Debian team now announced that the distro now blocks any packages that fails the build cycle. So if they can't build a package and see that they get the exact same result as when you are building it and sharing it with the team, so they need to be able to rebuild it with the source code and actually check the hash so it's the same package. If they can't do that, then it's not going into the release. Reproducible builds means what I said exactly, and it's important that it's the same environment and it's producing exactly the same binaries. And this is for security reasons, of course, because they had some problems with source code sneaking in backdoors and so on. But currently, 98.29% of the architecture-dependent packages in Forky reproduce successfully with 23,731 passing, and there are still 414 that are flagged bad, but they are working on it. So it's not going to impact anyone greatly, but if you're reading the open source code, you should be secure in the thought that this code is actually what's running on your system, and that's very important, of course. So next up, we have Linux getting a kill switch, and that's not really true because they are looking at a kill switch option. They are talking about it on the kernel mailing list, and this kill switch is pretty much killing particular features in the kernel by setting some flags and then turning off some features. Currently, the problems that we have found are in modules, so you can just unload those modules. So I'm not really sure that this is required. And this kill switch is not merged into mainline, it's just something that is discussed. So it's not something in any kernel or distro. But what's in the kernel is a new guideline from Linus Torvalds, or at least he was the one that were merging it in. This is something, of course, that the community has worked into the kernel, and it's problematic now that they have this kind of mailing list that is private, where they send in bug reports, and this mailing list goes out to people that are concerned and actually can make changes to the code and fix these kind of problems. But anything you send into the mailing list will not be read by anyone else, so you can't even read your own messages, and you can't read anyone else's messages because it's a secure mailing list. It's the whole point that somebody can't push something to the mailing list and somebody else reads it and creates an exploit and sends it out on the internet. The problematic part here is that a lot of AI slop is creating things that are seemingly problems with the Linux kernel, might even not be a security problem, but the AI is telling you that this is very important that we get fixed. You send it in as a bug, 13 other people are sending in the same kind of thing, they get a huge amount of duplication, and nothing is really done when it comes to this particular fix because it wasn't a big issue. So they have changed the guidelines that pretty much says that if you can't understand your own bug report, then we will just ignore it pretty much. So that's a guideline change, and it's very important, of course, for the project, so it doesn't get swamped with all these kind of AI slop. Next up, we have the Bitwarden that faces a couple of questions about the quiet leadership and messaging changes. I'm not sure if this is just making a hen out of a feather. It's not that big of a deal. There are small changes to the different wording and things that have changed the leadership a little bit, but I can report on what hasn't happened. So Bitwarden's longtime CEO, Michelle Candel, stepped down from back to an advisory role. The Bitwarden CFO has also changed from Stefan Morrison that left in April, and Michael Schrenkman is now that previously run InVision came to his replacement. But none of these are really officially announced, which is strange. They should have announced that we are changing leadership, of course. They have afterwards come out and told us about these changes. They are not major, nothing big has happened. Then they had some snafu when they actually were updating their marketing material. So they were changing it up, how they showed out the kind of free option and the paid option. And the wording always free disappeared sometime in middle of April, but it's now back at May 14. So I believe that was just a miscommunication when they were creating the page. Lastly, they have had this acronym on their site called GRIT, which were the culture of the company for years. And previously it stood for gratitude, responsibility, inclusion, and transparency. And gratitude and responsibility they are still keeping in this, but the two last one, inclusion, they have changed to innovation, which I think is fine. And transparency they have changed to trust. And trust and transparency isn't the same thing, but you can't really have trust without transparency. So they are similar in their wording. So I'm not sure that this is a huge change or a huge difference. Of course, Bitwarden is a tooling that a lot of people are using to store very secret information. So keeping the trust high is of course very important. So make of it what you will. I don't think these changes are malicious in any way. I just think they didn't think it was a big deal. Next up, we have WordPress 7.0 that released some AI foundation and refreshed the admin experience. And I don't really see a lot of the changes here. You can go in and put in an AI provider, which gives you actual extra plugins like editor tools for generating titles, excerpts, creating and editing images, suggesting alt text, and so on. I haven't used any of these. I don't really need them for my WordPress. They have expanded the responsive design, so it's more better on mobile devices. I'm not using it on a mobile device, but I can see that when you're reloading the interface, it has this kind of weird transition period. So pages takes a little bit longer to come in, and the transition is a little bit weird. So that is more quiet, more modern experience. I don't really like it. And performance improvements have been in focus, accurate image loading and prioritization. Didn't feel that it was that performant. So I feel this is a good change. It's okay, but it's not something major, revolutionary, anything like that. So I've tried this Cloudflare replacement of WordPress that they say is the new best since sliced bread with a lot more security and so on. I tried to use it as a developer, as somebody that is knowledgeable, and tried to set it up on a local host, and it was totally unusable for many reasons. I have a video coming up where I try to actually fix it so you can actually use it on a local host. I'm not there yet, but this is something that I want to talk about in the future. I don't want to make a hit piece and say this is crap. That's not the way I operate. I would much rather try to fix it and talk about the good points of this replacement. But I think WordPress is still in a very good state. And if you are using it responsibly, I think it's a very competent tool. Next up, we have Plex Lifetime that jumps in price. So they have gone from the low price of $250 forever lifetime Plex Pass. You can use it whenever you want, forever. And that is a lot of money, of course, but if it's a lifetime pass, then it's not that crazy. So they have price hiked it 3 times to $750, which is a lot of money, of course. But again, a lifetime is a very long time. So if you don't need to pay more than one time, that's still a good price for a very competent server. But of course, Yellowfin had to go in and joke a little bit about it. So they released, the core developers jokingly released the fictional Yellowfin Premium Plus 1 Super Ultimate with ads plan that they increased to $0 on June 1. So maybe people are looking more at Yellowfin now as Plex is getting very expensive. Next up, we have a very weird case of the German Deutsche Bahn website. So this is the Autobahn where you're going with trains and so on. And they were locking out Linux users. So when people went to the site with a Linux machine, it gave them the error 751. I can't find any HTTP error code called 751, so this is probably something that they made up themselves. But what was actually triggering it? They think the word Linux in the user agent was what triggered it, which is a very strange thing. They have now fixed it, so if you have a Linux box, you should be able to go to their site and book tickets. But it's a interesting case of some weird change to their website. I think it just was a bug pretty much. Next up, we have Firefox, and it has saved us from all the spammy online tools, is what they are saying here. What they have added is pretty much merge of PDFs right into Firefox. So if you have a multitude of PDFs and you want to merge them into one PDF, usually you use an online tool. There is a couple of tools in Poplar that you can use. I've written my own. Merging PDFs is not that hard. But having it right built into Firefox is of course very convenient for most people. And they have already added a bunch of good things to Firefox. So for now, you can annotate things, you can fill out forms, you can draw on a PDF, you can insert images, and you can sign documents without leaving the browser. So they have added more and more useful PDF features to Firefox. And next time I will actually open Firefox and try to do some of these things, because I'm working with PDFs every day, so having some of these tools could be very useful. And I think that's what it was for these 2 weeks. As you see, there wasn't that much to talk about. Still, some good stories. I hope that you found this interesting. I hope that you learned something today. If you like this video, give it a like, share it with your friends and colleagues. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. If you have any comments or suggestions, leave those in the comment section down below. And I really want to see you in the next video.